Waiting for us to get started here. StreamYard, let me know if we're live. Okay. Still don't see a live notice here. StreamYard is really acting up. Okay. This is like 20 seconds in. I still haven't gotten the we're live notice yet. Let me see if we're actually live. Might have to get another solution here. All right, now we're live. All right, that was literally 43 seconds when I pushed the go live button to actually seeing we're live. But anyway, we're live. It's Friday. It's sunny here in Atlanta. It's cold here in Atlanta, but it's my favorite time of the year here in Atlanta because there's football. And it also gives me an opportunity to break out all my Rams hoodie gear. And I look, my team stinks right now, but my gear is great. I mean, I didn't even know I had a matching olive green hat, Rams hat with the old logo. That's the logo I grew up on. But I just wanted this hoodie because I just loved it. And then I looked, I was like, oh my God, I actually got a hat that matched with it. So I'm happy, folks. I'm also happy because it's time for Small Business Breakdown. I'm also happy because Ivana is back. Hey, Ivana.
Hey, Brent, great to see you. It is also sunny here in Cleveland. It is perfect fall weather. The leaves are turning, and I've decided to wear a shirt that matches you and the leaves.
How about that? I like that shirt. It's nice and colorful and yeah, with leaves. That's a
Leaves.
theme. We got a theme going here. Now, usually I would have introduced Leland McFarland because he's the chief technology officer at Small Biz Trends, and he's the one that kind of put us all together here. But he's doing what he should be doing, which is helping his wife out. And so, in place of Leland McFarland, it's the original Small Business Trends person. It's Anita Campbell. Hey, Anita.
Hey.
It's great to see you.
Hey, good to see you both. This is wonderful. Glad to be here. And yeah, love talking small business.
Absolutely. Well, I think we come to the right place to do that. So that's good. Now, we are hopeful that we hear from Monique Johnson, and we are somewhat hopeful. Am I actually going to say we're hopeful to hear from John Lawson? It's so hard for me to say that, but all right, we'll say it. Hopefully, we'll have them somewhere along the lines for the show. But in the meantime, I wanted to get into something, and it's not really any article related, but it's kind of related to some of the stuff that we've been talking about. I know last week we talked about how Gen Z, it was based on a survey, how Gen Z seems to be a little more reticent to go into entrepreneurship than like our generation and the baby boomers and all those folks. And I think we started talking about, well, maybe do they see what they do when they're doing content creation and gig economy? Do they not see that as being entrepreneurial or having their own business? And maybe they don't think they are, and maybe we think they are. Maybe this is an opportunity to discuss what exactly is small business today, because yeah, I think we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of OpenAI breaking out Chat GPT, and I really do think the world, it's like a point of delineation. It's like the world was this thing before Chat GPT came out, and it's not even been 2 years. It'll be 2 years next month. Yeah. It seems like the world has changed completely since that line of delineation. So, and this is great to have you guys talk about this. Has small business changed as it needs to in order to meet the change that happened 2 years ago? Should we be looking at small business in a different kind of lens than we did 2 years ago? Whoever wants to talk about this, I think this is going to, hopefully we can hash some things out. But whoever wants to like jump in, I'm really interested in this, because this, for whatever reason, I just started thinking, man, a lot has changed, but has small business changed? Has it changed enough? Has it changed too much? I mean, what do you think?
Okay, I'll jump in. Actually, I've been thinking about this for a really long time. It has nothing to do with AI. It has a lot to do, I think, more with actually, since the internet and digital businesses and online, what I would consider to be, what do you want to call it, like online content creation, I think that's when it started. And this is how I do it. And Anita, I would love to hear from you, and Brent, whatever. This is kind of how I've been thinking about it. I don't have fancy words for it, but there are what I would call small businesses, small business owners. Small business owners are primarily motivated. They are like the people in your neighborhood, right? That's like what we consider to be a small business, a hardware store, a nail salon, a restaurant, like local businesses. Could be an insurance office, could be even a lawyer, could be like, they are businesses with what I call infrastructure, right? They can be brick and mortar. They might have multiple locations, and those small business owners are motivated by, I'm going to say, being a part of a community. So like, hear me out, right? They contribute to the community. These are the folks that sponsor your baseball teams, people like that. Then there are entrepreneurs. So in my mind, an entrepreneur, like back in the day, Jeff Bezos was an entrepreneur, right? The guy that created FedEx was an entrepreneur. Mark Zuckerberg. Like, entrepreneurs are always thinking about scaling, right? They want to be ubiquitous. They want to scale, right? So that's an entrepreneur. I've got this thing, and now I'm going to make it like really big and ubiquitous and turn it into a scalable company. Okay, that's that. Like, you could think of like franchises and things like that. The people that started that franchise, they become entrepreneurs, where it becomes ubiquitous. Lastly, there are what a lot of us call, and I just saw this. Now there's a new phrase, people, B2S, business to solopreneur. These are people who are motivated by lifestyle choices. And this is the category of person that I believe that when you're talking about Gen Z and content creators, whether they're on TikTok, whether they're on YouTube, whether they're affiliate marketers, those people are driven by the motivation to control their time, control their life, control like what they do with themselves and who they do it with. So I'm going to stop there, throw it over to Anita. What do you think?
Well, I think what you said is very interesting, Ivana. And I think the biggest changes are to come yet. We are on the cusp of a lot changing. I have been following what Tesla has been doing with the, autonomous driving cars, the autonomous driving taxis, and I know Google has a similar initiative, thing called Waymo, something like that. So think about all the people making money from like Uber today, okay? Driving Uber and Lyft. I mean, when autonomous driving vehicles come into play, I think we'll see a big shift in that. I think we still have a few years to go before that happens, but, you're going to see changes there. But it goes well beyond that. Like, I'm just amazed at the robot that Tesla has implemented. I mean, the thing walks. It looks like a human in a way. I mean, it can climb stairs. It can carry things. It talks. It serves things. It does all these things. In a way, it's a little like the ideal employee, for certain types of jobs. Now, we're years away, I think, from that actually getting to the point where, small businesses could implement that and consumers could implement that. But just think of what's to come with that. Okay, so I think those things are very exciting. I think the AI, there was a lot of excitement, but I'm noticing a little bit of cooling about some of the AI because of all the issues that have come up and what we're seeing with, AI coming up with answers that are wrong and, some people would say biased and sort of garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. So it hasn't proven to be capable of doing everything. I still think there are a lot of kinks that have to be worked out with that, but it's certainly exciting. That's for sure.
It's funny. I've been at a couple of different conferences, and over the last couple of those, maybe the last 2 or 3, I had a chance to speak to some small business folks. And the conference I go to are like Salesforce, Dreamforce, Oracle Cloud World, NetSuite, Suite World. There's all sorts of worlds and forces around me. But I got a chance to speak to some actual small business customers of theirs. And one was a farmer, and one was, one was it's like a apothecary farmer. I think that's what she calls herself. And the other was a manufacturer called Johnny Pops. I don't know if you ever heard of Johnny Pops, but they're based out of Minnesota, and they I guess you could say manufacture like ice cream pops. And they do it like, they manufacture right in Minnesota, and I think they're in 25,000 retail outlets in the States, and I think they're even in some different countries. But I think they have a little less than 200 employees. So there's, I think from all ways we traditionally speak of small business, there are small business. So when I asked them each about AI, completely different answers. I mean, like the Johnny Pops folks, they were like, "Oh man, we're looking to see what we can do to use AI and automation to streamline a lot of the way that we do things, all our workflows. We want to be more efficient. We think that AI has an opportunity for us to not only be efficient, but actually increase revenues. So it's not just efficiency gains; it's also top line revenue gains." And then when I asked the farmer, so are you guys, what do you think of AI? They're like, I don't want to think of AI. And it's funny because it's like you can see there are certain things that farmers can do, to use the data that AI can provide that help them, grow crops, or know when to plant things, or how much to plant. But she just wasn't, and she is a small farm. It's like maybe less than 10 employees or something like that. But it feels like maybe there's even, the way that we view small businesses, maybe even from a technical or a technological standpoint, needs to be amped up a bit, because, I talked to, they call them high growth small businesses who might have like 10 employees, but they have like over 1 million users because they're able to use technology to build this big user base. And then some instances they have more users / customers than companies we think are mid-market, but they're doing it all at it with less employees than those folks. So do we need to also start thinking about how a different definition or a different way to categorize what's going on? Because it seems like the more and more this AI technology in particular people get their hands on, it depends on who's using it and how they're using it, and how does that change the way that they're, not only do they operate, but do they change the way that we need to look at what small business is today? Because it doesn't feel like the definition of small business has changed in a number of years. And it looks like this technology, if it's changing everything else, maybe it's changing the way that we need to think about what small business really is today.
I guess I'm going to jump in and say I've been tracking. I've been to a couple conferences myself, and I've read a couple articles, and I wish I could quote some specific things. I'm going to throw this out there, but basically, what's been happening with AI is that over the last, what are we saying, 2 years, the cost of AI has literally dropped by something like 95%. That's how quickly it's dropped, whether it's because of users. I don't know what the reason is, right? But one of the things that's happening is we're going to expect to see this technology seamlessly integrated, as it already has been for a long time, but it's going to become even more seamlessly integrated in our lives, whether it's obviously in your mobile device, in your computer and the software that you use, in your vehicle. It's going to be absolutely everywhere, so much so that it's going to be invisible Like we're really like not going to see it, or not going to, it's going to be as invisible and assumed like a light switch. You walk into a room, you expect there to be a light switch, you flip the switch, it goes on. You don't like think about it that much. A light switch, a paper clip, it is going to be assumed. Most computers have internet connections. We just assume that. Most computers have video cameras. We just assume that. AI is going to be integrated, and the cost of AI is really coming down. And where that's really impacting small businesses actually is in the area of things like support and customer service. Right now, I don't know if you guys have noticed that I was actually playing with like 3 different video tools, and every single one of them had an AI chatbot that was there to answer my questions. And sometimes that answer is enough, sometimes it's not. I've been actually doing some work with some local manufacturers here in Northeast Ohio, and AI is a big conversation. And what they're talking about is redeploying workers. So the conversation is, am I going to have to fire people? And what they're actually doing in real life is, no, they're not letting people go. They're actually redeploying people okay, here's a real example. So imagine a manufacturing facility and they make widgets, right? And they make all different kinds of widgets, right? And so imagine that there is a widget that they can do, they call it lights out overnight with no supervision. And then these employees can actually decide that I'm actually going to dedicate my energy and my time to making this widget that requires my being here, that requires my supervision, that requires a little extra hands-on. And then the employees can actually say, I'm going to focus on this, and I'm going to let this run, as they call it, lights out. So it's basically redirecting the staff and the employees and the resources that you have into higher value activity. I don't know, Anita, what would you call it?
Yeah, no, exactly. Higher value, and more satisfying for the employee, I think, as well.
And they get paid for that.
Yeah.
For that. This is what this woman said. She said, it's not just that they run this product overnight. They actually get paid like some amount because they own the production of that particular product. So they're reimbursed. I don't know what you would call that, remunerated.
Some kind of profit sharing, yeah.
They are actually, and that was really, really important to this conversation, because the idea is that what this organization wanted to do was to incentivize their employees to embrace technology and AI and automation where it makes the most sense and provides the most value. And one of the ways that they wanted to not have technology and AI be equivalent to losing money.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
I feel like I almost feel like I'm straddling 2 different worlds to a certain extent, because I spent like the last week and a half doing these shows that were focused on the impact of GenAI on investment, like venture capital, angel investing, into the enterprise app world, which is, I live in the CRM CX world and all that kind of stuff. And how is all this AI stuff impacting the flow of money from VCs and private equity and angel investors, seed investors, even something called inception investing? I didn't even know that was a thing until yesterday. Into investing in all these enterprise apps, and the money is like there. I mean, it's like, people are angel investing 1 to 3 million, and they're like trying to find companies to give their money to. And then the bigger firms like Norwest Venture Partners or Redpoint Ventures, and once again, these are small in terms of actual number of employees, but they are playing with billions of dollars. And then you look over on the more traditional side of the small business, and it's like people are afraid of and worried because inflation and credit card debt, and it just feels like we're operating, is it like 2 separate economies at this point? I mean, it feels like it's not just small business versus big business, but it's like people who are finding ways to actually tap into the AI thing, and folks who haven't yet, it feels like that might be as big a designation as small business versus large business at a point. It just feels like, and I don't. Does it feel like there's like two separate worlds going on between small business and like what's going on, even if the number of people are small but the dollars are big? Because it feels like to me, I'm like, I have these conversations and they ain't matching up at all between that world and the small business world.
Well, I think it's like two separate worlds in general, because I mean, there are a lot of people hurting in middle America. So if you think of your more traditional small business model, which is, some kind of a service provider in a local area, a restaurant, something like that, HVAC repair and replacement services, maid services, things like that. I think those are in a totally different realm, and I think things are really challenging for them. I think restaurants in particular are getting really squeezed because, the cost of their ingredients are so high, and, they've been raising prices, but there's only so much they can raise prices, and it's not that they're gouging anyone. They're getting squeezed on, with everything. And so, I think that we're going to continue to see that. That's a big issue. Any company that has, high fixed costs, they're really seeing that as a real challenge if you're a small business. So, we have that. I mean, I think the AI is exciting, but let's stop and think about this for a minute. How long has it been since the concept of chatbots was first introduced? I don't know if you can remember, but it seems to me as like at least 5 years.
Oh my goodness.
Before that,
even way before that. Yeah.
And
it's
so
just that they were so expensive, right? I mean, it was
they were hard, and they were hard to implement, and they were limited in what they could really do, and you still needed a kind of a person there all the time, no matter what. So it just felt like something that really wasn't as useful as the promise was right away. So now if you fast forward, whether it's 5, 7, however many years, look how long it's taken us to get to the point where you can actually have this, AI interacting with people online, and giving them the kind of useful information, at least some of the time, that's really helpful. So I just think it takes time to implement a lot of those things. It's going to take us time to get there.
Do you think that small businesses who did try it out the first go around, are they coming back yet? Because a lot of times when you try something, particularly as a small business person, you try something and it doesn't work the way that you thought, or you thought it was promised to work. You then say, I'm done with it forever. I mean, are you seeing the return? Are you seeing small businesses gravitate back now because, it is easier, it is more affordable, but a lot of times that first impression is like, I'm not doing that right again.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I think also that as consumers and as buyers of services, small business owners and staff, we're all using AI and we're using it ourselves and we're getting more comfortable with it. I mean, I don't know. I feel that way. I don't know if you do, Ivana, but it seems that way to me.
I mean, I'm horribly addicted. It is such a huge crutch right now. Because I think as someone who's like a solopreneur that's joining the other 27 million solopreneurs out there, well, let's talk about this, for example. A lot of probably the biggest complaint that I hear from a solopreneur is that they are lonely. There are folks that actually, miss engaging with other people. And gosh, Anita, you and I have had this experience. If you have an idea, if you want to talk through something with someone, you and I would get on a Skype call and we would just like have a little break. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Right. And now, since I'm up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, I get to have that conversation with the AI now. And that's the part that is so addicting. And I've noticed something with Chat GPT. See, they made a promise back in like when the 4.0 model came out or something that with the 3.5 model, I guess, every chat was sort of like a silo. And I actually and they said that they were going to shift over to have it be more cohesive and that they would be able to go through the chats. And I just had that experience the other day. So it took a long time to have that experience, but I think it's finally hit because I was messing around with I put my astrological chart in there and was going to mess around with it giving me a marketing plan based on my astrology for the next year. I mean, I'm just messing around, right? And so I'm messing around with this and I'm like, this is stupid. I delete that chat. I open up a new chat. And I put the chart in there, but I'm asking different questions. But I did this because I didn't want it to reference what I did before. So I deleted that. I started a new one, gave it completely different instructions. It referenced the chat that I had deleted already. And it was kind of going back to that previous train of thought. And so I think that idea of brainstorming, and it's like a calculator. I hate to say it, it feels like a crutch, totally, because now I don't even take the time to think through something. I just like go to the chat and I ask it questions to have it like throw something at me so that I can have other thoughts.
Hey, Ivana, do you do this all in text or do you have it read aloud to you in voice?
I fully accept the fact that I am not like everyone else, and I do not like audio or video. It's not a preference for me. Like I like to read through text, and I think that just happens to be a strength of mine just because I've grown up with talking to people via text and messaging.
All right, but I gotta ask you about this because it is a strength. And it's definitely something you like to do. You don't want audio of it, but does that strength eventually turn into a weakness? Because people who did not have that strength, and we see the strength with AI and is audio and video. If you don't adapt to that, the current technology strengths or the future technology strengths, does that put you at a weakness at some point?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just told you guys, I was messing around with doing like some videos, and AI will do some video stuff for you, right? It'll get you to a particular point, but
wow, you froze. That's what you just did.
Yes, you're frozen.
It's actually kind of you can see she's about to make a really important statement.
Point, yes.
Okay, that's a really a
hand
shame.
gesture, and it's like, oh, she froze.
I hope she comes back because I was really waiting to hear that point.
Yeah, I wanted to hear.
Was that me?
You froze.
Yeah, you froze, and you froze like this.
Oh my God, I don't know what happened.
You were about to say something important, so.
I was about to say that I think that it absolutely does turn into a weakness. One thing I really, really struggle with is creating like AI images. So there's something in my brain that really struggles with creating like visual text or instruction, or maybe I don't have the creative ability to visualize it well enough so that the AI can create it. So that is a weakness for me, no doubt.
But you know what? But your strength actually helps that weakness, because most of these images that are created by prompts, which is text, which is people describing what they want.
But yes, and you need to have a certain kind of imagination to say, I want to create like a surfing cat with a sword and an eye patch. I mean, I don't even know. Like if
you have that because you just told Anita and I that you created something by throwing some weird scenario out that I would have never thought of. And you did it. So you have it in you. I think maybe you kind of represent to a certain extent, small business folks who are so ingrained in how they've done things all along that it's even hurts them to think about doing something completely outside of that, even though they probably can if they gave themselves a chance. Speaking of, well, I don't know how to bring him in, but he's here. He's back. He's late and wrong.
John, you're back.
He's the bold one. He's the cold one, and he's really cold in Atlanta right now. He's John Colder Ice Lawson.
Absolutely. Too cold here.
Yes, so
Continue.
we were continue. Oh, don't tell us what to do. We'll do what we want to do.
Yeah, you are in a great mood today.
Anyway, no, we're having, it's kind of like this philosophical discussion on, we're coming up on like 2 years into the Chat GPT era, and a lot of things have changed in 2 years. And we were just wondering, has small business changed? Has the way that small business is viewed changed? Has small business people changed enough? So we've already dug into that. What do you think? It's a big kind of overarching theme, but give us your first couple thoughts.
Oh, I think, remember we used to call this what do we call this? Not the technology age. What do we call this age?
The digital age?
Maybe it was digital. Okay, we can call it digital. But I think now we're moving into the AI age where it's going to change that whole, it used to be all about data. And now it's going to be about how we actually understand and use data. I remember a while back, it was all, big data. Remember how big data was this,
Yes,
right?
and
it was such a big thing about big data.
I hated that, by the way.
I did too. It was about, what the problem with big data was? We didn't have big enough machines to actually do anything with it. And I think today with AI, the age of AI, we're going to finally understand how we can, farm that data for our use as a small business. I think large corporations have been way ahead of the game on that. And I think for us, we're going to be able to kind of match some of the things that they're doing with their big data in our smaller environments. So that's the new age we're in with AI for me.
Does that change the way that small businesses should be looked at?
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah.
How?
I think, well, I feel like within the next, let's say 3 to 5 years, we'll have a one-person unicorn business. And that's going to be huge. That's going to change everything.
All right. So, and please feel free to jump in on it, because remember that story? I think we talked about it on Pass the Mic. The guy, is like some sort of an engineer who wanted to be a musician but couldn't be.
You love that story.
Oh, I love this story because it kind of speaks to what you just said. So this single engineer wannabe musician got a hold of AI and LLMs and all these, services, APIs to these services. And what he did was he created, not only did he use AI to create like tens of thousands of songs,
yep,
but he also used it to create like hundreds of thousands of actual digital listeners. And so he got them all signed up, got his songs signed up, and got the listeners signed up on Spotify, on Amazon Music, and all these music services, to the tune of, within 5 years, he had made $10 million from those services off of fake music and fake listeners, until they found him out. Now he's probably rotting in jail. But it does give you the sense of what could happen. And when you said one person unicorn, I kind of believe you. I don't know if that's a good thing for the masses, because once somebody does it, everybody tries to piggyback off of that, and we see what happens. That usually, signs kind of the sign of the end of of the way it worked for those guys. But is that a good thing? I mean, are we looking to use technology from a small business perspective to do that kind of thing, or should small business just try to leverage this new stuff to create a nice business and life for themselves? Because isn't that kind of what traditional small business has been like for like centuries? Create a nice business for your family, for your friends, and grow it if as much as you want to grow it, as opposed to like I think somebody mentioned Jeff Bezos. Like how many Jeff Bezoses are out there? There aren't that many. That's almost sort of like a super unicorn, because that one idea grew out of that one guy who created that business. Do you see that replicating itself over and over again outside of these big, Elon Musk kind of guys?
I don't know. Possibly, man. I think a lot of small business owners, like you said, a lot of these mom and pop business owners that made these businesses just for their family and themselves. I think there's an opportunity that somebody might actually come in and see for that business to be able to scale rapidly. And maybe the old business owner didn't understand or know all the opportunity that was out there, but one of these, newfangled Gen Zs will come in and be like, hey, I'll make you an offer. You go retire. We'll give you a percentage of the business. I want to blow this thing up using this new tool. I think there's opportunity out here. And this is one of those things where they're talking about, at some point, where are we going to be when, everything is making like crazy good money, and then there's no more need for employees and businesses and all that kind of stuff. I think there's a possibility that could happen. I do sound like, your boy,
So
the crazy dude, but
so okay. This is a question Brent would ask, right? My husband and I talk about this all the time. Is it going to be Mad Max world, or is it going to be Star Trek world? Ooh. Right. So John, you were talking about like everything's going to be making such mad money. We don't need employees anymore. That's Star Trek world.
Yes.
Right.
That's what I'm looking for.
I want to be on the record. I just want to be on the record. Even I would have never asked that question. So yeah, want to let you know that.
But I feel you. I'm excited and terrified at the same time. I think we all are. And we don't know where it's going to go.
That's why I think, to Brent's point, this idea, and I think about this all the time, just so you know, that this idea of constantly staying up on technology and being plugged into what's happening, and it's hard to let go of knowing the infinite detail of certain things. Like I've had to let go of knowing Facebook. I've had to let go of knowing like a bunch of things just because it's just too much. And there is that. And at the same time, there is an absolute recognition that when we are leveling up, actually, we were talking about when they had the strike, the guys at the ports and the docks, and they were striking. And while I am all for employees in the unions and people getting paid for the value that they contribute, I think one of the things that they wanted, what had happened was they had placed automation at these ports against the contract, which they said they would not do. And then they went and did it anyway. Not cool. But at the same time, then on the union guy side, like, do you really expect a corporation to not automate? Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
So, this is one of those where I fall squarely on both sides of this thing, Brent. Like, yes. And we learned this in grad school. When we are leveling up the way we are leveling up with automation, there is going to be pain. There are going to be people who are left behind, but that pain and that left behindness historically has been like, let's say something like this. Imagine like on this giant timeline, it's been like this. and then it goes, whoops, I'm going it the wrong way. I have to do it like this, right?
You're doing a hockey
Before you
stick.
get that hockey stick, which
Okay.
is, you know what I'm saying?
Uh,
So yes, there's going to be pain, but it's like growing pains before we all, or many, or before like 80% of us, 70 some percent of us are just like we now have people in their 90s using mobile devices comfortably. So it's going to take time and it's going to be painful, but it's going to have to happen if we
Yeah.
don't, if we're not Mad Max by then.
All right, this is great. So let's talk about, I think we talked about the Gen Z folks last week. They're reticent to do entrepreneurship, but if, let's say, they're Gen X or baby boomer parents or grandparents have a small business, and they are looking towards that generation to take over, to come in. Does AI help the Gen Z, say to the Gen X baby boomers, we'll take over the business, but only if you really let us take it over and do the things that need to be done with AI? Do you see that as happening? Because it feels like it, if Gen Z is already reticent, are they actually going to want that job? Are they going to want to take over that small business? And will AI be the thing that allows them to do it the way they want to do it, or else they won't do it?
Well, no, I think, businesses are constantly evolving, and yeah, that's absolutely going to happen. And any business owner from, prior generation who's smart is going to say, I'm going to let you take it over and do what you will with it. They're not going to try to hold them back from progress. Let's say that, because, everything changes, everything evolves. My business was not the same business 20 years after it started. It totally changed, and you really have to keep up with the changes, and you have to embrace these changes. And it changed several times. And I think the pace of change is just going to get faster and faster. It just keeps getting faster and faster. So yeah, definitely. I think it all depends on the type of business and the circumstances of the business. But to what Ivana was saying earlier, like with the dock workers and automation, you can't hold back the tide. It's just like a tide in a hurricane. If you think you're going to hold it back, forget it. It's got too much force. It's moving too fast. You might be able to hold back a couple of inches with some sandbags, but you're not going to be able to hold back 6 feet of surge. It just isn't going to happen, so.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we know you're speaking from personal experiences.
From real experience.
Yeah.
6
So,
feet of surge.
yeah.
All right, I got one last question, and this is, I don't want it to be political, but it's all right. So we have an election coming up in 3 weeks.
We do.
I know. Have you heard? Does it matter who wins from a small business perspective? Does it matter who wins in terms of what's gonna, the trajectory of where small business will go, whether it be good or bad? Does it matter who is the next president for that trajectory to be good or bad? Whoever wants to take, I'm not asking for any specifics. I'm just curious. Do you think does it matter who becomes the next president from a small business perspective to be a good thing or a bad thing? I already know John's answer, but
Let's
really
hear
curious.
it, John. Go ahead.
It's hard to isolate small business from the actual small business workers, owners. I think.
Well, didn't we say like 33 million small businesses are one person thing? So
one person business
totally makes sense that what you just said.
Right. So it definitely will matter. How will it matter? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So if we take all the rhetoric out of the equation, I don't think there is a whole lot of data that shows that okay, let me put it like this. Small business is probably the one area where both sides are on the same side of the football.
What kind of game would that be? I mean,
I'm just saying. I mean, I don't think either I don't think either side, whether Republican or Democrat, has small business as something that they're not going to push. They understand the importance of small business to our economy.
so you're
no
saying
matter
it
who
doesn't
it-
matter. That's basically what you're saying, right?
Pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
I think small businesses, it's not going to matter to small business as a whole. It's going to matter to the individual.
So the aggregate, nothing to see here, but the individual could be something to see here.
Yeah, I mean, there might be one or two little bills or something that might pass, but I mean, we're always supporting small businesses. Both sides are.
But they don't talk about it in the same way, right? I mean, it's not like they're both
They
saying
don't.
the
They don't
exact same
talk
thing.
about it. Do they talk about it?
Well, I thought so, but
I'd
No,
say
I'm
all
asking-
they do is talk about it.
All talk.
All talk. Yeah.
All right. So
There you go.
does it matter then? If they're both just talking, does it matter who wins at this point?
I think it's a lot more. I think I agree with a lot of what John says. Do I expect in the macro much to change? No. And the only reason I say this is has it changed in the past? When, if it is going to change, when is it going to change? So what I always like to talk about is, remember, people, we are dealing with systems that are extremely slow moving. So what they did in 2017, you're only feeling that like in 2023, 2024. So whatever it is that they're going to do in the next year or so isn't going to be felt until probably there's somebody completely different, like Gumby in the White House. So, there's that, but I am going to mention one thing before I throw it over to Anita, and that is local. If small businesses are going to be impacted, it's gonna be local. So if you haven't voted already, definitely get out there and don't forget to vote down the ballot. Look these people up in your area on the internet. You can print that out and take it with you to the polling booth. But look and see, there are lots of information out there on who is supporting small businesses the way you want to be supported. Anita.
Well, I think the election could matter to small businesses. Will it? It depends on whether they really act. Whoever is in office really acts on it. Okay. Now, we did see some things over the years that have had negatives and positives, and so it really does matter. Let me just throw out a few things. Regardless of where you come out on different things, I think it's pretty obvious that some of these things have impacted small businesses. First of all, I think the explosion in regulation, that's a bad thing. Okay. Too many bureaucrats, too much regulation. When it comes to like anything involving food or whatever, it has really, really impacted a lot of small businesses in some pretty negative ways. Things like the Corporate Transparency Act, where now small businesses have a lot more reporting requirements. Okay. That's just coming into play now, and small businesses for the first time are going to have to start reporting this. And many don't even know yet that they have to report it. And now I just saw that Paychex implemented a tool to help you navigate this new act in the reporting. And so it's another burden that you have to worry about as a small business. Oh, I got to worry about this now. And, I think some of the things with, the IRS and a lot of the, the hiring of the IRS agents, that really came down hard on a lot of small business owners and not necessarily on, the billionaires of the world. And whether it was intended to do that or not, I don't know, but I think the effect of it did that. I think some changes in the insurance market really, individual small business owners, the solopreneurs, where the insurance market was basically devastated. It was gutted. You still have small businesses that are too small to qualify for a group plan that have been, they lost their plans. There are no longer any plans you can get You just can't get them. You have to go on an exchange, but that brings in issues that people don't like, because of uncertain incomes. You don't know if you're going to have to, end up paying back a subsidy or whatever. And I think there were some positives that came out of like Obamacare for people who couldn't afford insurance. But I think there was this unintended consequence where it really devastated solopreneurs in ways that, and I know I was impacted, for several years. I didn't have insurance. I had to go to a health savings plan because I couldn't get a policy. I lost my policy, couldn't get one. We're just too small to qualify for a plan. And I just didn't, I had an uncertain income. Every year your income is different, so to get, some kind of a subsidy, it just didn't work for
That's
some.
why we need health care for everybody. No,
Well,
I'm
actually,
sorry. I'm sorry.
I actually am not against like single payer health care.
I know. I think
it's actually a good thing. I just think how it's paid for and how it's done is important. Okay. And that's the issue. So,
and I
actually think a lot of people would be fine with the single payer healthcare as an option, because there are a lot of people who still are just left out in the cold. Another thing is, we had some tax cuts a few years ago that are going out, like the QBID, the Qualified Business Income Deduction. That was a huge thing. They're calling it like the 20% income small business deduction, and that needs to be extended for sure, so things like that. I do think these things come into play, and they're very important. And I would like to know that policies matter. But again, going back to what you said, it all depends on whether they act on them, whether they do more than just talk about small business. Everybody wants to say, oh, I love small businesses, Well, it's like saying I love mom and apple pie. Great.
We all love
it. So do something about it. I feel like one issue that needs to be addressed, if you were going to address something, is somebody needs to get real about addressing our failure rate for small businesses. For decades, the failure rate has been 50% of small businesses are out of business in 5 years. That's a well-established fact. Now, in the United States of America, why is that? Why can't we do more to keep those who start a business in business? Okay. Now, I'm not saying if they grow big and they stop being a small business because they grew big, that's great. That's a good way of not being a small business anymore. But if you start a business and you just fail, there's really nothing being done. I mean, you have the SBA and they try with education and so on, but there's just a limit to what they can do. And I think there's no real initiative to say, we're really going to support small businesses in this fledgling 1 to 5 year range and get them over that hump and maybe reduce that failure rate to 40%. Okay, or 35%, or even 45%, something. But nobody does anything about that. They just, they're going to fail. There's nothing we can do. It's the market. And to a degree, it is that. You're never going to change certain things. Some people are going to fail no matter what. But there's nothing that really is supporting small businesses. I think if we approach things a little bit differently, we might be able to change those statistics. That's my dream that I would like to see.
And I just would like to just quickly say, because we're getting close to the end here, but whoever wins, I hope they nominate Anita Campbell for Small Business Czar.
There you go.
Because that's what we need, right?
I'm
not kidding. You have the passion and some great ideas that should be.
I just came back from the Small Business Development, SBDC, National, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I walked around all the booths there, and I'm like, the biggest problem we have with small businesses is a lot of small business owners either don't know a lot of this stuff is available to them, or they don't take advantage of the things that are available. I'm like, I had no idea. Oh, really? And I'm supposed to be, a small business person. There's so many niche organizations that are, there to help small businesses that we just don't utilize. How many small business owners actually walk in to the SBA when they don't need a loan to see all the other services that are there? It's amazing. Anyway.
Well, maybe there could, just more coordination of those things.
Yeah.
We certainly are plowing a lot of money into
We
those
should.
programs, like you say, John. And, I'll probably be the first one to admit, along with you, there are probably things I have no idea that are out there that if, people just knew and could leverage better. But that's the problem. There's a million things, but nothing's coordinated. There's kind of no way of sort of organizing it and getting it in front of small business owners. You're kind of on your own, and everybody says, oh, it's so diverse, there's nothing you can do. Well, I just don't think we've actually tried. So anyway, enough. I'll let you drive the.
No, this is great. I'm so glad we had this conversation today. I didn't know what direction we're going, but it's always let it roll, and usually rolls into a very interesting discussion. So thanks again for everybody joining us. And I guess I'll do I think, Anita, would you consider that your parting thoughts? That was a kind of a mic drop parting thought for you there. But if you have anything else, this is where we all get a chance to say our last thought before we end the show.
Well, the only thing is we didn't have a chance to really talk about the click to cancel rule that the FTC is implement. And I actually like I'm not in favor of regulation in general, but that I think is a good thing. And I think I'll just say it's going to mean changes, both positive and more challenging for small businesses. As consumers of services, small business owners have dealt with, this Kafka-esque type of situation where you have a subscription and you're trying to cancel and they make it so hard and it's just impossible to cancel. And we've all been through that. I know I've certainly been through that.
Man, have I been through
that. On the other hand, if you run a business and you have a subscription, now you've got to make changes to make sure that your customers can cancel easily. And not keep that going. But I think in the long run, that's going to lead to much better customer service and relationships.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, look, if it's on you to make sure I don't cancel, that means you got to keep creating value and showing that it's worth it. Then it's on you. It's not on me to try to find out where the hell the cancellation button is, because that is so annoying. So annoying. All right, Ivana.
I'm just going to leave you guys thinking about something, and that is back to my business law class, something to what Anita said. Do you know why we have regulations? Do you know why we have lawyers? Because people are no damn good. That's why we have these things. If you don't want lawyers and you don't want regulations and you don't want people to click to cancel and you want your customers to keep coming back for more, take the time to look inside your business. Oh, if you don't want to fail at your business, take the time to do some research, pick your ideal customer, because that's what failure is, a lack of money and a lack of customers. So if you don't have customers, you're not going to have money. And if you don't have customers, it's because you ain't selling something they want to buy. So take the time and try to figure that out. Work a little bit on.
Oh, no. You froze right when you say work a little bit on. What was the last word?
Something every day that challenges you, because that's what I'm going to be doing.
All right. That's a mic drop for Ivana. Now, the bold one, the cold one, John Colter-Rice Lawson.
Well, this is a special week. It is the end of Big Brother season.
Oh.
And in the beautiful words of Julie Chen Moonves, love one another. That's all I got for you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank goodness.
Huge week. Great episodes, man. It was a great season.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
We're so happy for you. Anyway, my parting thoughts. Join us at 5:00 for Pass the Mic, where I really tear into the bold one, the cold one.
Good luck.
And we hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you next Friday. Have a good one. Stay warm, too.
Hey, bye
guys.